fast approaching the given hour.
Where's me? I miss Ben coming in. I talked to everybody, but I didn't talk to Ben.
I haven't seen him.
He's back there in the corner.
Oh, he's probably
Who is that?
he's avoiding us.
Ben.
Ben, we played a joke on him Friday.
Oh, did you?
He's still out of sorts.
Well, he wasn't mad at us, was he?
No. He said he wasn't anyway.
It was a pretty good one.
It was one of the best ones. I got to run around and expect payback for the rest of my career.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
You started.
My biggest one yet. So I print them up every month. I'm pretty sure I've never had one quite this.
Work hard.
deep.
National championship. I know. Work hard. Right. It's sure let's cut out.
You want to table anything? You see something?
The meeting will come to order. If everyone that is not standing, if you would stand, please. Councilman Robertson will do the invocation.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our community. We thank you for those people in our community that make it a great place to live. We thank you for the blessing of new employees and the blessings of this championship team and coach. We ask that you continue to bless our community and make it a great place to live. Amen.
Amen. If you would, please remain standing and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Take this time to welcome each and every one of you here. I don't think we've ever had this big a crowd before. And it's really nice to see this many to come to our town board meeting. Item number 5 on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Mayor, before you all make a motion, I have one change. If you could go to the closed session, I just need to straighten out the sections for that. We have it noted as A3. We need to add also A5. A3 is to consult with our attorney, and A5 is to discuss acquisition of real property. So under closed session, if we would add A5, A3 is to consult with our attorney, A5 is to discuss acquisition of real property.
Okay. All righty. With that being said, do I hear a motion we approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is the recognition of of employees.
A lot of them.
A lot of them. So at this time, Fire Chief Moore will come forward and introduce each one.
You know this is an exciting night. We got Chief out in his Class A uniform, so it's a good thing.
Expect it next month. I'll get everybody to come on up. I will be a little bit out of order. I'm going to start with the duty crew in case they have a call. Myers, Weber. This is Mr. Brian Myers. He's from Newport, North Carolina.
Chief, if you could speak up so everybody can hear you.
A little bit about him. He was married this past October. He has 2 dogs. Started his fire service career in 2002 with the Harrisburg Fire Department, which is outside of Charlotte. He's been a career firefighter for 13 years. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Fire Administration and Fire Investigation from Fayetteville State or Columbia Southern. And he currently volunteers as a captain with the Newport Fire Department in Carteret County. So go line up on the other side there. Next is Mr. Justin Weber. He's been married for 1 year, almost exactly, this month. He also has 2 dogs. He's originally from Ayden. He began his fire service career with the Ayden Fire Department, and from there he worked for the city of Kinston for 3 years.
Yes, sir.
And he currently lives in Bellatha.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Justin Weber. Step over there beside him.
Chief, I know it's not your thing, but if you could speak up just a little bit more.
Okay. Mr. Robert Spence. He began his career with the Gaston Fire Department, which is in Northampton County, where he still volunteers. He enjoys hunting and fishing as his pastimes, and he's just graduated from the Wilson Fire Academy, which is the regional fire academy for the eastern part of the state. So, Mr. Robert Spence. Mr. Spencer Albritton. He's married and has 2 kids, Ryan and Anna Gray. He worked 11 years for the City of Greenville Fire Rescue Department, and he has volunteered for 12 years with the Bellatha Volunteer Fire Department. Spencer Albritton. Taylor Moore. Taylor Moore grew up in Farmville. He also volunteered with the Bellatha Volunteer Fire Department since he was 16. He went to the Wilson Fire Academy in 2015, and he worked for the city of Rocky Mount for 3 years, and he relocated to Winterville, and that's what kind of got him on our radar. Mr. Taylor Moore. Mr. Alex Yates. He comes to us from the town of Zebulon. He lives here, but he has been working full-time for the town of Zebulon. He went through the Nash Community College Fire Academy in 2011. He's worked part-time with the town since 2015, and he also oversees our fire hydrant testing and inspection programs. And he enjoys relaxing and spending time with his family when he's not here. Mr. Alex Yates. Mr. Corey Rayner. He's been married to his wife Melissa for 6 years in July, just a couple months. He volunteered for 4 years with the Hugo Fire Department, and when he moved to Pitt County, he's been volunteering here for 9 years up until this point. He graduated from the NASCAR Technical Institute in 2009, and he has served in the Army Reserve for 8 years. Mr. Corey Rayner. Mr. Hunter Barrow, he's been married for 1 year also. I didn't want to mess that up. He is from Snow Hill. He's an avid outdoorsman also. He went through the Wilson Fire Academy in 2015, and he also has an associate's degree in fire protection from Wilson. He worked 3 years for the city of Kinston before coming to Winterville, and he volunteers with the Arbor Volunteer Fire Department, which is on the other side of Snow Hill? Yes. Okay. Mr. Hunter Barrow. Mr. Francisco Lopez. He's originally from Mexico. He's lived in the Winterville and Greenville area for the last 19 years. He has 6 years of service in the fire service. He's volunteered with the State House Fire Department and worked 4 years for the city of Greenville. His niche is vehicle extrication and teaching vehicle extrication, and he is an avid ECU football fan. Mr. Frankie Lopez. Mr. Jordan Craven started his fire service career in 2004 with the Southwood Volunteer Fire Department. He also worked for 12 years for the city of Kinston. He's worked part-time for us for about 2 years. And he also has an associate's degree in fire protection technology. Mr. Jordan Craven. Stephen Cox. He volunteered with the Eastern Pines Fire Department for 15 years. He's been married for 12 years and has a 7-year-old daughter. He worked 10 years for the city of Goldsboro, and prior to that, he worked 3 years for the city of Washington. Mr. Stephen Cox. Alex Caldero. He started in 2010 with the Winterville Community Fire Department. He also attended the Wilson Fire Academy. He's in the United States Marine Corps Reserve for 5 years? 5 years. And he has volunteered with us since 2015 up until now. Mr. Alex Caldero. And Mr. Tony Klontz, last but not least. He worked 11 years for the city of Greenville, and he has volunteered and worked part-time for 10 years with us. He's got an associate's degree from Lenore Community College. He's a level 2 fire instructor, and he is a paramedic. He's married to his wife, Megan, has 2 kids, Brendan 5, and Madeline Grace 3. Leave out anything? Mr. Tony Klontz. I think Ms. Holmes would like to take a few pictures, if y'all can bunch up or kneel down. Or.
Chief, I'd just like to say, this guy holds a special place in my heart. And some of you know, my son retired from Greenville Fire Department. What a pleasure to work for you all.
Arrange somehow.
Before these gentlemen disperse, I'd like to tell everybody here that you're now looking at the first full-time paid crew with the Winterville Fire Rescue EMS Department. So. We're ecstatic to have you. Welcome.
Mayor, before you read that, Ms. Tamara Harris would like to read a statement from the teachers and parents that were unable to come in reference to the South Central basketball team.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Is that volume good for you? Good. I'm using my teacher voice.
Sounds great.
I would like to say my name is Tamara Harris. I'm a teacher at South Central High School, where I've been the last 3 years, and an employee at Pitt County Schools for over 10 years. I'm extremely proud to be able to speak here today at the end of this long journey. What was accomplished on March 16th is truly a historical moment. Our team had the highest scoring game in history, 72-46. Our team won the first schools 4A men's basketball championship for South Central High School. However, it took years of training and perseverance by these athletes to overcome the obstacles they had to face. Still, they rose. It has been said there is no I in team, but each of you had to ask yourself, what must I do to help my team succeed? I'm sure you answered, practice harder, practice longer, and work together. Then there's the me in team. I'm sure you also said, as for me, my job will be to do whatever it takes to make sure we take the title. So, gentlemen, you did just that. with the help of your coaches, your parents, and family and friends. It is truly no surprise to me, though, that you won. Even back in middle school, I looked at several of you and said, these boys are truly going to be winners someday. I bet you got tired of me taking all those pictures of you, but I was glad to capture the memories for your family and friends who could not make every game. Not to say that they didn't want to, but you know they had to work or they had other obligations to the family. As a special gift to each of you, come by my room and see me. I have several individual 8x10 pictures of your best shots, and that's a gift from me to you. It will show you my unwavering commitment to you and your success and your family. You will also get your rings. I bet that's what most of you are still waiting on. But there's another gift that you have that's way more important. Yes, you need to get a cap. You need to wear a gown, and not for prom. But I want to be there to cheer for you again on June 8th for my seniors. It'll be time for you to graduate. I'll be sad to see you go, but I'll still have the rest of you to cheer on. Seeing you at Minji's will be a proud day for your family, your teachers, your coaches, and everyone that supported you, the entire community. Remember your theme this year, Rise as One. I'm sure as they call each one of your names, your parents will cheer loudly for you. Your theme from last year, I Still Believe. We believed you could do this. And now you have a new thing. Now you are number one. I wish you good luck in the future. You are our fierce Falcons forever.
Now I have a proclamation from the town of Winterville, and I am going to read it. I will not try to read all of the names. Whereas South Central High School is a part of a viable part of services and contributes to the Winterville community, and whereas the men's basketball team completed a very successful season, winning the state 4A NCHSAA basketball state championship for the first time in the school's history, and whereas the fans, volunteers, parents, coaches, and student athletes spent countless hours at practice, traveling to and from games and supporting the team, and whereas the team has a record of 30 wins and 1 loss overall, with 12 wins and 0 losses in the Eastern Carolina 4A Conference, and whereas Chris Cherry was the Daily Reflector's All-Area Basketball Coach of the Year, whereas Ron Sharp was the Charles Adams Most Valuable Player in the championship game and the Daily Reflector Boys Player of the Year, and whereas I will probably pronounce it wrong.
Just say Mr. Baker.
How about Mr. Baker? was South Central's most outstanding player in the championship game, and whereas Raekwon Van received the 2019 North Carolina Farm Bureau Sportsmanship Award prior to the championship game, and whereas the town of Winterville proudly supports and honors the efforts and accomplishments of the tremendous student athletes and coaches of the South Central High School 2018-19 men's high school basketball team for their championship season, and publicly thank and proclaim this outstanding accomplishment. In witness thereof, I do set my hand and cause the seal of Winterville to be affixed to this the 8th day of April 2019, and is signed Douglas A. Jackson, Mayor. Mr. Don Harvey is going to call out the names.
Okay, as I call your name, if you'd come up and get a copy of the proclamation for your safekeeping. Shaquem Phillips. Yeah, why don't you? Trayvon Ward. Just hold it. Sidney Williams. Isaiah Mills. Jazir Baker. Shaquan Jones. Joseph Thompson. Philip Chin. Jordan McMillan. Raquan Van. Larry Lassiter. Jeremy Lewis. Daron Sharp. What? Help me with this one. Hawante Hutcherson. You didn't mess me up. No. Okay. Tarek Hill. And then we got some support staff. Assistant coaches, Leland Jones. Tim Elliott. Joey Gaddy. Miles White. James Hillard. Felix Harris. Hallie Sayer. And I had to save this last one because as of today, Coach Cherry, okay, I'm sorry. I wanted to wait for last because as of today, it was announced that Coach Cherry was the National Coaches High School Association's Coach of the Year, and this is the first ever coach from the state of North Carolina to win this.
He's gonna take it.
Also, Mayor, two of the players that was on that state championship team played in our Little League football system. There was Shaquem and Philip Chin. They came through the Recreation and Parks football program.
That's great. That's great.
And Dayron? I didn't know that. Oh, and Dayron. Oh, okay. I remember Philip and what's his name? Yeah. Good for all time.
That's great.
And we didn't recognize the principal, Mr. Cannon. We're glad to have you here tonight.
Is he here? Yeah, there he is right there.
Could he
Glad to
stand?
have you here.
Thank
Mr.
you for
Cannon?
coming.
Yes.
Well, maybe we now have some room for everybody else to sit.
Come on down.
Yep, closer.
Got one more.
Come on in, folks. Have a seat.
That's a tall young
What
man.
is a tall kid?
Another good superstar.
Well, it's obviously a great time for basketball in Pitt County, so we've got some more good stuff to talk about.
Okay, we have another proclamation, and this is the Pitt Community College 2018-2019 men's basketball team. And I got something hanging on my glasses. I will read the proclamation also. Whereas Pitt Community College is a viable part of serves and contributes to the Winterville community. And whereas the team completed a very successful season, and whereas the fans, volunteers, parents, coaches, and student athletes spent countless hours at practice, traveling to and from games and supporting the team, and whereas a new school record single season was set with 24 wins, and whereas the new school record single season conference was set with 12 wins, and whereas 17 wins, and whereas the team was Region X, D1, 2 regular season champions, and whereas the team appeared in the NJCAA D2 National Tournament, and whereas Derek Mullins was 2019 NJCAA D2 Region X Coach of the Year.
Wow.
And whereas Ben Cox was 2019 NCAA D2 All Region X First Team, and whereas Reginald Clark was 2019 NJCAA D2 All Region X Second Team, and whereas the town of Winterville proudly supports and honors the efforts and accomplishments of the tremendous student athletes and coaches of the Pitt Community College 2019 men's basketball team for their successful season, and publicly thank and proclaim this outstanding accomplishment. In witness thereof, I do set my hand and cause the seal of Winterville to be affixed to this the 8th day of April 2019, and is signed Douglas A. Jackson, Mayor.
Good evening again. As I read the names, if y'all would come up, and Mayor's going to hand you a copy for your own keeping of the proclamation. Ruhan Walters. Damar Sutton. Taj Moore. Donquez Davis. McAlee Robertson. Devontae Petaway. Jamins Ray. Timothy Downing. Kenny Scott. Rovell Ray. Samaj Yelverton. Reginald Clark. Matisse Edwards. Ben Cox. Chacon Brown. What's he weigh? 300? Okay. Assistant coaches, Roderick Ford. Cameron Rouse. Tariq Dupree. Kieran Corey. Kalisha James. And head coach Derek Mullins.
Mayor, council, that's the way to start off a meeting now. That's good
I
stuff.
mean,
Yes.
your room cleared out pretty quick. Okay, item number 8 is a public hearing on the Brookstone subdivision, Phase 1.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be in front of you tonight. So we do have Brookstone Phase 1. It's a conditional use district, an amendment to that original conditional use permit. So just some site data for you. Brookstone subdivision is located out on the east side of Church Street. That's north of its intersection with Reedy Branch Road. That's in the area of our operations center. The current zoning is R15, a conditional use district. There's 22 lots with 10 and a half acres out there. So the applicant is proposing the following amendment to amend and remove the following condition. A minimum of 25% of the home shall have brick veneer exteriors with the exception of gables, dormers, and other architectural features where non-veneer finishes may be preferable. So that's what it currently is. They want to replace that specific condition with all homes shall have at least 25% stone or brick facade, which is just the front elevation. So the town council did authorize the issuance of the conditional use permit, the original one, January 9th, 2006. So I'm a numbers guy, so about the numbers, if you look at the amount of lots out there, 25% of the 33 lots would equal 9 lots with brick homes that would be required to, 9 lots would be required to have brick homes. All exterior of the home would be brick. So currently there's 11 homes built on the site. 3 of those are all brick. So if we were to fulfill the remaining requirement, it would be six homes of the remaining 22 lots would have to have all brick construction. So a notice was placed out on the property March 6th. Notifications were mailed to adjoining property owners March 25th, and a public hearing notice was published in the Daily Reflector on March 27th and April 3rd. So here's your site here. So it extends all the way down here. Church Street, there's Park Road right there. So there's the new Shriners Club site. So here's just an overlay of the subdivision map itself. You see those are the remaining 22 lots that are not built upon. So this would be the entire conditional use district. So this would apply, the application or request would apply to the whole conditional use district. Planning and Zoning Board heard this and recommended unanimous approval at their March 18th meeting. So now we'll hold the public hearing, and I'll answer any questions before that, Mayor.
Mr. Jones, the ones that all brick, and you said they already have been completed, have they been sold yet at this time, for as you know?
Yes, the homes out there are occupied and have residents in them. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions? Declare the public hearing open. Anyone that would like to speak in favor?
Mr. Mayor, Ms. Manager, members of the council, I appreciate you guys having us out again. I'm Zach Anderson with D.R. Horton Homes, representing the applicant and the property owner in requesting an amendment to the zoning conditions of the Brookstone subdivision. We came in last time to discuss kind of a little bit who we are, and I'll go over that again. We're one of the biggest home building companies in the country, and are looking to expand our presence here in Greenville. We just purchased our first set of lots over in the Denali subdivision, closer to the high school. And gosh, I should mention that I'm sorry that I'm following up such an exciting couple of announcements there with something more mundane, but congrats to South Central High School and Pitt County Community College for those awesome achievements there. But I'm here tonight with Mike Money, our operations and building manager, and Kathy Young, our sales manager, who we got crying over here over some But we're here to talk about a little bit of our product and what we're requesting tonight. There's a little bit about us here. We've got several different brands that we have in our portfolio, our family of brands here: Express Homes, D.R. Horton, Freedom, like an age-targeted product, and Emerald is our semi-custom product. And in this neighborhood, we intend to build our move-up, our second home, D.R. Horton brand. Currently, there's 33 lots in the subdivision. There's 22 left to be purchased that, for the most part, have been sitting for about 10 years. 11 of them are currently built and owned, which, as we stated, several of them are full brick now, and the remaining ones are hardy or vinyl siding on all sides. Here's a couple pictures of the existing homes. It's a great looking community, very well maintained, gorgeous homes that we think really fit in well with our product. So let me get into a little bit of the wording of what we're requesting here tonight before I get into what we intend to build. There was some confusion last time, and I try to word it correctly. 1 in 4 of the homes is required to be full brick on all sides. The remaining homes can be all vinyl. They could be any other per code building material. What we're requesting is that every home that we build will be stone or brick veneer on the front facade. The reason that we're requesting this change is that the market today does not ask for and won't allow for full brick facade. It adds about $30,000 to the cost of the house, and when selling it next to the same house with vinyl, the house doesn't appraise and won't sell at the same rate. So what we're requesting again is 25% of the front facade of every single house that we build will be stone or brick veneer, and that's consistent with what the zoning conditions are in the Denali subdivision that we're building in. Some of the homes we'll be building there, per another condition to the conditional use, must be greater than 2,000 square feet. So we'll be building homes from 2,200 up to almost 4,000 square feet. Just a few of the elevations that we plan to build out there. As you see, at least 25% of the front facade is brick or stone. So here's just a few of the products that we intend to go with. And just a little bit more about us. We offer some discounts to members of the military, law enforcement, firefighters, healthcare professionals, teachers. It's something that a lot of the folks on our staff are taking advantage of these opportunities, and we like to give back in that way. So hopefully some of our firefighters new on the staff can join us. So, and there's just a little bit more about us, but we'll skip that for today.
One question, if the house is on a corner lot, would the garage be on the side rather than the front?
Typically, we put them on the front, but we have an option on a corner lot. It would be a simple option for us to move it to the side.
It would be nice if it were a corner lot, the garage would be on the side rather than the front.
All right, and we like to leave that option
kind of break it up a little bit.
Right. I like to leave that option open for the buyers when we pre-sell. Those corner lots are kind of the premium that they get to choose.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. My name is Ken Wilson. I live in the Brookstone subdivision. We've got several homeowners present here this evening. My family was actually the first residents of the neighborhood. We moved in, had a house built in about 2008. There were other houses built at the time, but so we were the first people who moved in. been active part of Winterville since about 1999, I think is when we moved here. Had kids started in sports, so we've been actively coaching and being involved in ball there. So we're pretty involved in the community, really like the community. But what I want to bring before you this evening is to discuss this proposal being presented. When we moved into this neighborhood, we had certain expectations of, you know, what the neighborhood was going to be developed out as. You know, we knew what the zoning requirements were, number of brick houses, square footage, that sort of stuff. In addition to that, we entered into a restrictive covenant agreement with the builders, which I have a copy of tonight that I'd like to share with you. I know you don't really have any jurisdiction over that, but I would like to present it. If you'll turn the page, multiple copies, turn to page 7, where I've got highlighted portion that I just kind of want to emphasize. And I've got a copy of it that needs to be here.
You said page 7.
7.
Thank you for highlighting it. It makes it easier to find.
Yeah. So it has mainly pages 7 and 8. So I'm sorry, I don't remember the person's name, the representative for D.H. Horton. One thing he mentioned when Mr. Mayor brought up the part about having garages on the side, you know, what was expressed was the desire to leave it up to the homeowners, so what they would choose. So that's emphasizing the importance of the opinion of the homeowners in decisions such as that. What I want to point out is this is our restrictive covenant, what we as homeowners are required to do if we want to make any changes to our lots. Before, we have to go before an architectural review board, and we have to meet the requirements of this and have it voted on by an architectural review board, which is involving the owners of the homes and get a majority vote. So what's being presented here tonight is a change in the existing zoning restrictions that affects us as residents. I know it may seem minor, you know, the 25% brick, all around side brick requirement. But as we've seen this neighborhood develop, we've seen most of the homes built at the bare minimum. So this is just in addition to what we've already experienced, a lack of follow-up on some issues that we've had in the neighborhoods and that sort of stuff. So what I wanted to present to you tonight is that we as homeowners have certain requirements, and we have to have a vote among our fellow residents to have things changed in our neighborhood. And what's being pretty much pushed on us is a change in the zoning requirements where we can have a say, but we don't really have any vote. And that's the part that I want to present this evening is, you know, there's a change being requested that we are not in favor of as a neighborhood, because we feel like it affects our property value, the further development of the neighborhood, along with the other types of things that I've expressed. So, and the reason I brought these restrictive covenants is just to show to you what our requirements are if we would like to make a change to our neighborhood. However, it's totally out of our hands, the change that's being presented tonight, other than having a say-so. That's all.
Any questions?
Mr. Wilson, would you be interested in meeting with the possible developer to discuss these changes?
Sure, I'm willing to. I don't know that, I mean, it's pretty much.
I'm going to vote with you, in your favor if it comes to a vote.
Yes, sir.
You count.
Is it Mr. Wilson?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Have you met with your homeowners association president?
No, sir.
You have?
No, sir. That is still the majority of the home ownership is within I guess the former development owners' D&I properties.
So
I
he's
don't know
acting
exactly where that title or position is being held.
So there is no association then?
We have an HOA agreement, but we have not formed a local committee because the majority of the ownership is within the homeowners.
The restrictive covenants is a covenant between the lot owners.
Right.
And I think what Mr. Wilson is
Yes.
saying is that currently the majority of the owners are still, the majority of the lots are still owned by the developer, the declarant. So the individuals that have bought are members, but they don't control the majority of the lots yet.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Then the developer still has the majority of the lots, so he has the proxy of all the empty lots. If I'm correct, right?
That's
And
right.
so if you were voting in a setting, in a homeowners association setting, then he can.
Yeah, he's the majority stockholder, if you
He's
will. He's the
majority
majority
stockholder.
lot owner.
So this covenant then can be changed by him, correct? I'm just asking these questions.
That would, I mean, I've just now looking at this for the first time. I'm speaking in generalities how most homeowners association work, but that would be I would agree with that. Yes, that the majority lot owner can vote. Now, some subdivisions require a pretty high percentage. So
that's what I'd like to
like
speak to.
90%.
Some do require 90, and it would depend on the percentage, but some are as low as 75, and I've seen some as low as 51, so it depends
So
on where they fall.
for instance, we just had an addendum to this, our HOA agreement, and it required about 6 homeowners in our neighborhood to vote in favor of that, 6 out of the ones that were in there. So that's where the percentages, and I don't know the exact percentage, but that's where we fall right now. Just to have an addendum added, it required approval by the property owners as well as approximately 6 of our current resident members. So we do still have a say.
Thank you.
Was this document presented to the planning board?
To the what?
Planning board.
No, ma'am. I honestly did not think to present it during that time.
I didn't, I was at the meeting, I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
And the property owners that you have, that you're representing tonight, I'd like to see how many that you represent tonight. Could you please stand? Just stand.
So we had other people here during the planning board meeting, so just scheduling and maybe belief that their opinion didn't matter after the way things went with the planning board.
Okay. They said right now we have how many homes built out there? Is it
I believe there are 11
11?
constructed.
Right.
The rest of those lots have been basically inactive for several years.
Now, keep in mind the upkeep of the neighborhood has been very poor, so that could play a very important part in the lack of interest in the neighborhood.
Sure, absolutely.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, what's the board's pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion that we put it off tonight and ask that they meet as a group until they do have a vote and put it off for 1 month.
I second that motion.
Make sure I heard it right. Put
Put
it off.
for 1 month.
Put it off for 1 month. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We'll check on them again
And
next
get
week.
together as a group.
Mayor, may I ask the town attorney something?
Yes.
We don't have to re-advertise. It's not another public hearing. We're just bringing the vote back.
No, I mean, I think you've had your public hearing,
Okay.
so come back up. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
This document makes a difference in consideration of it. I wish that the planning board had added at night that they could see.
And if I could, just for discussion purposes, that document that Mr. Wilson presented is certainly important. The homeowners in that subdivision, but the town has no
Right. We have
say-so over that document. That's a completely internal document to the subdivision proper. The town has no say-so or influence over that document.
Right.
But I think it substantiates the argument of an expectation from the people who bought the houses and first moved in the subdivision.
Okay, moving on. Item number 9 is public comment period. And as usual, I have to read the rules governing this. The public comment period of 30 minutes provides an opportunity for residents to comment on any item included in the agenda or to address the town council on any other matter related to the town of Winterville. For an item included in the public hearing section of the agenda, residents should address the council at the time the mayor invites public comment on the item. No public comment may be made to the council during the meeting except during the public comment period or as part of a public hearing. Individual speakers are limited to the maximum of 3 minutes, and no more than 3 speakers may address the council on a single matter. The town council may elect to take no action on the matter addressed by a speaker, may schedule the matter for further consideration at a future council meeting, or may refer the matter to town staff for disposition. Copies of the town public comment policy are available in the rear of the assembly room. And the first person that has signed up for this is Mr. Gary Whitus.
Hello again. Gary Whitehurst, 105 Emily Drive. I met with you all in February concerning the noise coming from the Moose Lodge, and I was asked to return if it was still occurring. Well, the past two, well, not the last 2 Saturday nights, but 23rd to 30th, had some pretty good noise bumping out of the Moose Lodge again.
I'm sorry, Mr. Whitehurst, did you say the 23rd and the 30th?
And 30th,
okay.
Yes, which are both Saturday nights.
Okay, thank
you. On the 30th, I called the police. I got moved to the sheriff's department, and I was told that they had I called at 9:20 p.m. I think the ordinance, is 11 p.m. So I waited again, and I was told they have a permit. So I called after 11, and I was told again they have a permit till 2 a.m. Now, I thought it was 11 p.m., Anyway, it's awful frustrating. I'd like to apologize to the people at dispatch that I spoke to because I became so frustrated and so angry at the fact that I was dealing with this noise and possibly till 2 a.m. If you have an issue, if you have to issue a permit, that means there's going to be noise. If you have to issue a permit, that means there's a noise ordinance. Now, there's, between, say, April and through August, there's 20 Saturdays there, approximately. That's 3 weeks. That's 3 weeks of noise that I'm asked to put up with, and I'm wondering how much should I be asked to put up with. The Moose Lodge, the Watermelon Festival was once a year, and it's understandable, a permit being issued for that purpose. But I would like to ask the council to limit the number of permits for this excessive noise, or at least forbid external sound equipment into the building. If we're talking about April through August, that's 3 weeks of just Saturday nights. Well, what if it's Saturday? What if you throw in Friday nights or Sundays? The days aren't a problem, it's the nights and the potential for a 2 a.m. delivery of this excessive noise. And that's all I have. I was hoping maybe you could help me out with that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Whitehurst. Anybody have any questions?
I'm sorry, Terry.
I was just going to say, we have, I think, another gentleman who signed up to speak about the same item, and then staff has some updates on what we've been working on, if that's okay to wait till after Mr. Edge speaks.
We do have another gentleman, Mr. Wayne Edge.
Oh.
He's signed up to speak.
I did.
Okay.
Would you like me to take a seat?
If you don't mind.
Sure.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Town Board. Appreciate y'all having me out tonight. My name is Wayne Edge. I'm from Maury, North Carolina. I'm a 20-year veteran Moose member, and I'm also a member of the Greenville Moose Lodge. Before I get started, if you would allow me to give you a little history on what the Moose actually is. We're a fraternal organization that takes care of children and seniors. Children that have no parents or that parents are not able to take care of them. We house them, we take care of them, and we give them a full education and scholarship anywhere they want to go if their grades allow them. We've been doing this since 1913. We have small other lodges in our community. That's just a little history. A lot of stuff that we do is community oriented. We support local baseball teams, Boy Scouts, cancer walks, anything that you look, we are there to help the community. That's what we're for. We're a community-based oriented fraternal organization, along with our fraternal thing. The gentleman that spoke, yes, we have an option to use our lodge for activities. We play hard. We have, we work hard, we play hard. We also give chance to the community to come out. Matter of fact, the other night it was the high school. We offered them our lodge to come out and have a party. Yes, we try to, there's no 2 a.m. At any lodge I've ever been at, we do not party till 2 a.m. The noise ordinance we try to respect. We have a member of our lodge at each function to try to keep those who are there to keep it at a minimum. If we feel it's getting out of control, we ask them to turn it down. We have exterior doors at our lodge. Sometimes parents, members of the staff, or the children may open those doors. That's where your noises come, you get noise bleed that way. We try to keep those doors closed. We try to keep our noise in. We ask that Mr. Whitehurst, if he has a problem, to come to us before he addresses it with y'all, because we understand we don't want to be a problem in the community. We're here to help the community. We're not here to hurt the community. That's what we're here for. If we have a problem, we try to help. Now, I believe that the participants of the last rental did go to Mr. Whitehurst and let him know we are going to have a function here, and we wanted to know if it would be okay with you. Because we knew that he had a problem with that before. That was on them. They did that out of the kindness of their heart and what has become, this situation. We ask that you allow the noise ordinance or rental request to stay. We ask you that we will continue to police our area. We ask you that we, can try to be a positive influence within your community. Matter of fact, being a positive influence, we're fixing to have a chicken barbecue sale this Thursday or Wednesday, and we're going to raise money only for us, but to help the community. So please, look at this fairly. Look at who is, look at all the parties involved as far as, are you getting enough number of complaints to recommend this? Is it coming from a lot of people, a few people? Is the subdivision being harassed or whatever by our organization? If so, let us know. We'll try to work on it. But I don't think we're doing that. I think we're trying to keep the peace. I think we're trying to do what we're supposed to do by our bylaws and by the city ordinance. So again, we thank you for your time. We thank you for letting me come up and talk to you. And please consider this anything we can do for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edge.
Mayor, members of the council, I'd ask Chief Wilhite to come up and talk about police department response when they get a phone call.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Whitehurst. I do empathize in our situation here. Our officer was out at the South Central basketball team function. They got there around 10:30, and they actually stayed until around 11 when it was concluded at that time.
Did you say South Central?
Mm-hmm. The men's basketball team had a congratulatory celebration. So what I think has happened is we've outgrown our ordinance. Portion of it was derived in 1992 and the rest of it in 2001. And since then, we've probably doubled in size. Not necessarily this particular residential area, but there's a lot of words scattered in our ordinance, such as unreasonable, disturbing, what a prudent person might think. Now, those aren't measurable, tangible definitions that are the same across each citizen or officer. What's reasonable to one is not reasonable to another. The permitting section talks about a decibel level, where we're absent of a chart defining those levels, as well as our officers aren't equipped to measure any of those readings if we did have a chart. Looking at several jurisdictions across the area and in different states as well, Mr. Whitehurst, I think, is correct in the fact that you don't permit a single location over and over and over. Most jurisdictions limit it to about 4 per year for one location. That speaks to continually issuing the same permit. And then in that case, if someone's exceeding the boundaries of the permit, then that would have to be a measured response. In some cases, in Newport News, they've actually said if you can hear, if a noise is audible inside another person's dwelling or vehicle, I won't get into the vehicle part, but if you can hear noise inside of your dwelling coming from somewhere else, then it is outside the scope of the noise ordinance without a permit. So my takeaway from this, and I spoke to the town manager, is that we need a revision of our noise ordinance. I have been working on that for about a week, and I think I can have something that gives us a few options, whether it's a measuring chart and a measuring way to do that, or maybe if we want to go a different direction where it's what I can actually hear, because a lot of decibel meters are unreliable because they measure if it's raining outside and there's music playing, both of those noises are added together. They are not separate from each other. So any ambient noise that's around this meter, they're all going to calculate as a whole number in totality. So it's not, they talk about measuring numerous times when you're trying to get that reading. So my recommendation would be to allow us to bring you a revised ordinance that is more usable in our town with some restrictions on these permitting practices so that we can provide the level of service to the citizens in the town that we might not be living up to right now.
Chief, I'm sorry. I just have this right here. Some of our houses in this town are duplexes, right? Granted, duplexes. You got teenagers. Teenagers tend to play music loud. If I got a duplex and my neighbor called, then I have then exceeded the noise level, right? According to what he's saying now.
Well, I think it depends. Currently, it is very subjective, so it is difficult to enforce. I don't want to age myself, but I was around when Greenville grappled with this the first time around, so I just aged myself. But in any event, back then, bass was a type of noise that was difficult to measure. So then you got into the whole, if you can hear it audibly from a certain distance, then it might be considered an offense of the noise ordinance. I do think technology has come a long way. I think the chief is right. There will be some decibel meters that if not calibrated correctly, or if they're just not very good ones, then it can be difficult. However, there's some better technology out there that would allow for better measurement than what we currently have, which is things like disturbing to a reasonable and prudent person. And certainly I'm not insinuating that Mr. Whitehurst is not reasonable or
Right.
prudent. I'm sure he is, and you seem like you are to me. However, you can see the differences we can get into. In terms of what Chief mentioned about Newport News, I'm not sure we need to go that far, where you're talking about being able to hear it inside your house. I have a neighbor who, when they're coming home from work, they play it loudly in the car once they get out of the car, but I certainly wouldn't want to get, that's an enforcement challenge as well. I do think we can come up with something that is more updated and enforceable than what we currently have.
And then also too, for Mr. Edge.
Yes.
Back there, have y'all looked at the soundproofing of your building?
We have looked at that. It's something that I've also talked to the board about. We're looking at, it is a metal
Right.
structure,
Mm-hmm.
so there is not a lot of soundproofing at this time, but we are looking at either adding some type of structure to kind of buffer, or maybe adding some thicker insulation within the walls of the lodge. So, that's all been discussed on our end. It's just, that's something we've got to work on and have the funds for.
Right, because even in just normal, I'm saying if in a normal day, hour, or whatever, if they having something in there, in a band or just banging cans in there, it's going to be heard because it's a metal building, and if it don't have any and you banging off the walls, you're going to hear it. So.
Mr. Edge, do you have plans to request for another permit within the next month? Chief, you planning on presenting the revised recommendation by our next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Do you have plans for a noise permit within the next month?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the calendar to know if we're renting. I do believe we're renting in May. I would have to get with the current sitting governor to find out what that particular rental is or what that particular situation is. And I can find out there. I don't know if that particular rental has requested. I would like to say this. I did mention earlier, I ran it to the town council and the police departments. Again, this Wednesday morning, we're going to have a chicken fundraiser. We're going to be out there at 4:30 in the morning. We have about 6 to 8 to 12 cookers. We're going to be opening and closing at 4:30 in the morning to put over 1,000 and some chicken halves on to help the community raise money along with the Loyal Order Blues. So I would like to put that out there and go ahead and apologize ahead of time for any type of noise ordinance that may cause. But that is something that we do every year as a community project and also as a fundraiser for ourselves. So we just want to let you know that. But I do not know. I will try to get with the governor when I get back. It's our meeting night as well, and find out about the May thing. And the chief is welcome to come out and talk with us and let us know what we can do to work with the police department.
We've actually suspended any issuing of permits until this is addressed.
Yes. Do they have to be in the motion?
No.
No.
Okay.
And I don't think cookers opening and closing will
No,
probably
I just asked Mr.
be
Edge
outside
if
the
he
scope
would.
of the ordinance.
I just asked Mr. Edge if he would keep them birds quiet.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it.
I did speak with Mr. Bowen, and the town has done this, and our rentals, we can't keep up, is to, and it was, hey, can your board consider no amplified sound? Our community room is that way, and we rent it as fast as we can answer the telephone. Now, obviously, your rentals will change to baby showers and other activities that don't go from 9 a.m. to 11 or 12.
Well, there's lots of events you can have without amplified music. It just may be deemed a little differently without amplified music.
And lastly, we did scour the neighborhood. Mr. Whitehurst might be the only one who's here, but there was quite a few other residents who felt the same way. They just haven't been out to speak their complaint. So we went door to door over the weekend and gathered some more information.
You're going to rewrite the ordinance,
Yes.
as I understand.
It'll be-
I wish you would add vehicle noises to it.
It's in there.
I
It's
hear
in
the
there.
boom, boom, boom coming by my house. Mufflers that shake the pictures on the wall, they're so loud. And I think now would be a good time to add something to that.
Well,
I know what the state statute used to say about vehicle noises. And I've had neighbors complaining about that.
Again, that's a type of noise that has historically been difficult to measure. But there's better ways of addressing that now, so certainly, I think we'd be talking about all types of noise.
Well, I know that the state statute used to read, and it could have changed, any vehicle that emits a loud noise and/or smoke is illegal. And that was in the old statute back when I was working at the police department. That could have changed, but, we used to write tickets right steady for that.
Mr. Pires, didn't you say something about up till about 11 o'clock the last time? Or?
Well, the last I've heard was that even if you issue a noise permit, the chief probably knows the answer to this, the limit is 11 p.m., I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
So basically, you're complaining about the noise after 11.
Actually, I'm complaining about this particular instance on the 30th. It was coming into my home as early as 9 p.m. But, I try to be reasonable. The people that Mr. Edge was speaking of, they did come to my back fence and they're young, and they said, we're going to be playing music. Is it too loud right now? I think they're on a cell phone. I said, it's a little loud, and I really appreciate you coming. They turned it down, and I think they made a good effort to try to accommodate. I have learned since I've been living there, from song to song, the dynamics change, and then it's
definitely
it's coming in the house. I don't care. I like the Moose Lodge. I think what they do is great. And what they have done is great. But if it's unreasonable, it's unreasonable, and that's all. All I'm asking is that stay out of my house.
Well, I'm gonna be a sore thumb too, but I look at it the same as the people behind the baseball field or football field when the PA announcer's talking. I live right across from South Central. On Friday nights, I can hear the PA system in my house. I'm on the back of the highway. My bedroom faces the back of 4 lines, and I hear cars, trucks, the chief fire truck, everything else, the police cars and everything else. And that's because poor built structure I stayed in. I wish I'd known it before I bought it, but, it's a give and take. But I'm just, if you can work with Moose Lodge and the Moose Lodge can make some renovations and all that and be good neighbors, I think we can get along.
Well, I certainly think any amendments that we would bring forward in the ordinance would be to try to build a collaborative effort, not just to be heavy-handed with enforcement. So obviously that's going to entail continuing to work with Mr. Whitehurst and the Moose Lodge to try to come up with a good solution. I do think we can make some improvements to our ordinance that give the police department better tools to be able to manage that, though, because what they have right now is very challenging.
Any additional questions?
Word prudent.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So what I'm hearing is we're going to rewrite the ordinance.
Well, we're going to amend it.
Amend
We're going to
it.
recommend amendments. The whole thing is not bad. It's just some specifics that we need to kind of rework and specify.
Okay.
And we're not going to issue any permits until we see this.
Correct. And you should see this back in next month's meeting.
Okay, item number 10 is the consent.
Go ahead. Go ahead, then I want to say, go ahead.
I'd like to remove items 3, 4, and 6 from consent agenda. 3, 4, and 6.
Okay, items 3, 4, and 6 are removed. With that being said, do I hear a motion we approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. First is item number 3. Appropriation of budgeted salary review to capital outlay and contracted services purchases for the police department.
Good evening again. To explain that request is talking about our vacancies that were approved in June of last year. We were able to fill 2 of those positions. We had a process in March of 2018, which those 2 were not hired until after the board approved our 4 new positions. If you remember, also, we have a school resource officer get pushed out there. So that left us with 3 vacancies out of those 4.
Chief, when did you say that process was?
The one that we hired, Officer Lamb and Ellis, was in March, but they weren't sworn in until August.
Okay.
We then held another process in August, again in November.
You got those positions in June of 18?
Yes.
You're talking about a process that was then March of 18?
Right. The process that was underway at that particular time went into after the approval.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear because the timeline.
Yes, it was
is
prior.
Confusing.
So it basically left, and we're in a current hiring process now, which left, for all intents and purposes, 3 vacant positions in our salaries line item. In an effort not to request a few items in this year's budget, I asked the town manager if we could use those funds this year, reallocate those into capital outlay and contracted services for the use of keeping our fleet management on schedule, and as well as right now we currently have 8 working tasers with 21 officers. We have 8 working body cameras and 21 officers. So we would be able to enter into a more robust taser and body camera contract this year, not ask for it in the new budget, nor ask for any additional vehicles under our fleet management schedule for this upcoming budget year.
If I could follow up on Chief's comments real quickly. Last year, when we were going through the budget process, in the fleet replacement schedule that we have for police, Chief would have purchased and replaced 3 existing patrol cars. When the new positions were added, those 3 replacement cars then changed to 3 additional vehicles for new personnel. So again, with the addition of 4 officers and then the school resource officer, which gave us an additional position on top of that, we still need the replacement vehicles because those vehicles that were scheduled to be replaced are still needing to be replaced. So that's the 3 vehicles you would see in this request tonight. Also, we have an existing agreement for body cameras. Same company, same type of agreement, but it's only for 8, as Chief stated. Tasers were purchased separately, not under any type of agreement that talks about replacement warranty, any of that. So this is bringing tasers together with body cameras, increasing the number that we're purchasing, but this agreement offers new equipment at year 2.5 and year 5, and it also, if something is broken or needs fixing or addressing, then that's all covered aside from the warranty in this new agreement with, is it Axon?
Yes, ma'am.
So I just wanted to give a little bit of additional information, how we got to this request currently.
Make a motion to approve.
No, I got a question on that.
Yes,
What
sir.
about this?
Councilman Moore, could we get a second?
I second it.
Thank you.
I second it.
Thank
We
you.
got a motion and a second there. Discussion.
Okay, what about the 3 positions that are you still planning on filling those 3 positions probably in the next budget?
There's
no.
2.
2?
There's 2. We currently, in our efforts to fill these positions, we've kind of thought outside the box a little bit. We've actually hired a trainee who is currently in basic law enforcement training, but we've already put him on payroll as a trainee, and once he graduates, then he will then become a police officer. He's from Winterville. His grandmother lives in
I believe.
on Jeremy Lane, I think.
Carroll Crossing. That young man has signed a 2-year contract to work for us after he graduates from BLET. So there's a contractual arrangement for Mr. Anderson.
Okay. So that will leave how many? Say 2.
That will leave 2, yes, sir. And the current hiring position just closed last Friday, so we'll jump into those applications probably Amy gets back, probably at the end of the week.
I believe Chief and I concur, even with the applicants that have applied for this process that just closed on the 5th, it would be unlikely to have those people in uniform and working before June 30th. It's just, it takes a good 3 months at least to do all the
correct.
background. So we'd be talking about those positions coming in the first part of the new budget year anyway.
Thanks, Chief.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And you wanted to say something, you said?
Councilman Moore took my, I'll get back when we get to
Okay.
that item. Thank you.
All right. Item number 4 is sale of the surplus E1 fire engine.
So this is the fire engine. It's the 1994 E1 International Cab and Chassis that's being replaced by the new truck that's due in a few weeks.
What was the process of, came about Johnson Community College?
We know some people there, and they're actually building a training facility that I was there touring, and we started talking about the truck, and they expressed interest in it.
Have any other departments had that same option of the fire departments?
It's not been advertised.
Is not a normal policy to advertise?
I don't think this truck would be suitable for frontline service for a fire department.
I know I read that.
When we have, if you'll know, with some of the public works equipment recently, if we have a government entity, i.e. the community college, reach out, and it's something that looks like it's a good mesh for their training, et cetera, that's why we brought it.
This truck doesn't have seat belts, shoulder and lap belts in all the seats, and from a perspective of the fire pump on it, I would hate to sell it to a fire department to respond to fires. That's why we're replacing it.
But normally we would advertise anything like this, wouldn't we?
Sometimes.
Not always.
I don't think so.
Yeah, we just recently, what was a sale to Grifton, was it not?
We sold them 2 things that we did not
Advertise.
because it's another government
Since
agency.
it's a government
Well,
entity.
that's what I mentioned, it's so far away, Johnson County, Grifton's our neighbor.
Grifton's got trucks much newer than this that they respond to calls with, and I don't think we would get this price for it anywhere else.
I think Chief, in working with those folks, found they have a suitable need for their training.
Mm-hmm.
They can utilize that truck.
It'll be at a training ground, not on the highway.
My concern is not being open with other departments within Pitt County.
I certainly think we could do that. I do think Chief has voiced a stated concern even before we brought it to council about selling it in its current condition to another department.
Please offer it.
With the things that have been wrong with it.
I'd share that with them and see if, I hate for another department to need a truck like this as a second line vehicle.
Well, honestly, they could find better trucks. I mean, you can look in the agenda packet and find 4 or 5 that are in much better condition.
That truck is 27 years old, 26 years old.
And it's got some specific
My
challenges.
my vehicle's 52 years old. I drive every day. Anyway, I just want to be
You
able to
don't
table it
pump,
with-
you don't pump fires and send people into
No,
structure
but
fires.
still, I still wish we would, I'm concerned that we don't offer it to other, to say no. I always like to be friendly to our fellow fire departments, give them the option.
I think under normal circumstances, we would agree wholeheartedly with that. But again, this truck has some challenges that make it a little.
How long we had it?
Since 1994.
Pardon you?
So pretty much it's out of service. It can be.
It is literally out of service.
Literally out of service.
Yes.
If it was in service, we should be using it.
Used to, they used, had a 20-year requirement, and they changed that years ago as long as it did the job. Is that correct?
As long as it passes pump test, I mean, you can run it, but this truck has got some specific issues.
So do we need a motion on Molly?
Go ahead.
Yes, we would need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we sell it surplus to Johnson Community College.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Discussion. Again, I would like to share with those here and the board that we're setting up a statement that we did not reach out. You never know what other people's, even Pitt Community College might start a program of fire safety. If they haven't been contacted, there's no option. So that's my only concern.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to sell it to Johnson Community College. Here, no further discussion. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
After all that discussion. Okay, item number 6 is set a special call meeting to conduct the, I can't even talk tonight.
That's usually my problem.
I've had so much to say tonight.
You have. You said a lot of good stuff.
Conduct the town manager's performance review.
Councilman Moore beat me to it, but I realized I had given you 4 choices for dates, and they were just, April is, we usually do it in April. April is chock-a-block full the latter half of the month, so I tried to scooch into May, but I'm hoping one of those 4 dates would be
For some
good for
reason, I
council.
don't have those 4 dates.
Well, one of them is, we already have something on the, in May. The 14th will be in Hickory.
You said May 14 be good for you?
We'll be in
May
Hickory.
14th be in
I
Hickory.
forgot that was the league conference. I apologize for that.
Okay.
And I thought I had gotten 4 good dates.
What about the 23rd?
I can't be the best to understand. I can just send mine in.
May the 21st.
No, April.
April.
April the 23rd.
23rd.
Yes, and you say you can't do that, Mr. Moore?
Yes, sir.
Well, those are the 2 that I recommended, was the 14th, May the 14th and 23rd, but I'm good for him.
Councilman Moy, aren't you going to the league conference?
Yes,
Well, you can't do the 14th then.
yes, no. No, ma'am.
And they're the dates that I just suggested, if you have alternate dates.
How about the, of course, it's Easter Monday now, but the 22nd.
I won't be in town.
Okay.
I'm on vacation.
Oh,
No,
So what we got left?
23rd be fine.
I tried to stay
What
away
about
from.
Monday, what about Monday the 29th?
I think we have a meeting. We have
Mm.
we have a
Process
budget
meeting.
process meeting now.
Would help if I put that on my schedule, wouldn't it?
Me too.
4/29.
You
But I
said
missed
29th
that.
budget.
I thought it was no calendar. Thanks, good.
I didn't put,
What time?
I had 6.
What time? Which date?
The 29th.
29th.
The 29th, 29th is the budget meeting, that is at 6. I'll double check, but I thought all the meetings were at 6.
How about the 30th?
Got a meeting the 30th.
Budget progress on this sheet right here is at 5:30.
Okay, good, 5:30,
It's
sorry
5:30.
about that, keep me straight, Ms. Robertson.
On April 29th.
Too many meetings. I know there's a steering committee meeting for the land use on the 30th.
Oh, that's right.
That's at 5. I'm sorry, good great, I'm just giving up times. It's at 6.
Is May 1st, anybody?
I didn't pick a Wednesday or a Thursday, that has historically been a challenge, but those certainly if that works for folks. That doesn't work for folks.
Is Thursday, is that the first Thursday?
It is.
I got a meeting that night.
How about the 25th? Oh, she's gone the whole week, that's right, I'm sorry. Whole week.
Where you go?
DC.
Volunteer appreciation.
Oh, that's a volunteer appreciation dinner.
Yeah,
See what I mean by the end of April?
yeah.
It was getting crazy. How about,
December the 5th?
Did we say?
I would appreciate that.
Did we say Monday, May the 6th was out?
I didn't hear anybody say, is the 6th
I can do
out?
6 of May.
I'm good, 6th of May.
Good, 6 of
What
May.
day is it?
That's a
Monday.
Monday.
Is that the?
Councilman Moore? That looks like everybody can do that.
May 6th.
Now, I said 6, but 5:30, whatever works for folks. King, can you do the 6?
I'm sure that'll work.
Okay, I know that
I'll
was-
make it work.
What time, 5:30 or 6?
Y'all pick,
Let's do 6.
okay?
May the 6th
At
at 6.
At 6. Gotta get cross time.
As the process has worked, I'll get all those forms out. Keen will be the collector of those forms, and we'll go forward. Thank you so much. I'm starting to think y'all didn't want to review me.
Okay, moving on. Item number 11, first one is sanitary sewer rehab.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This item is an amendment to the existing engineering contract with Rivers and Associates. If you recall, the town received a low-interest, long-term loan from the State Division of Water Infrastructure for the sanitary sewer rehabilitation project. We have the engineer, along with a company, has come through and already done the cleaning and TVing portion of that initial phase of that project. Now we're moving into the design and the construction, bidding, and administration of it. So this amendment is just to the existing contract to add those activities and tasks to the contract. The sum is, for these additional tasks, is $347,000. All the funds are included in the loan. We received $3.5 million in the loan. $500,000 of that is the principal forgiveness portion.
I make a second it.
Have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
The item number 2 is the pump station rehab.
So that same fund, or that same loan program, is accepting applications this spring at the end of this month. Okay, so this resolution, this item before you, is a resolution authorizing the filing of the application for, if you recall, when we went through the AIA asset inventory and assessment and developed the asset management plan on the sewer side of things, we listed in the, I'm using a lot of letters up here, in the CIP, the capital improvements plan, some of our pump stations need some rehabilitation. where the item we just spoke about was about the collection system, the gravity lines in the collection system. Now we're talking about rehabbing some of those pump stations. This application, we'll put it in the hopper and hopefully receive a similar score and potentially receive an additional principal forgiveness as well as a long-term low-interest loan for that. Again, we're just seeking for authorizing us to file that application.
I make a motion that we give you permission to
Approve the
authorize.
resolution. The resolution.
Second.
Approval of the contract, is that what you?
It's the authorizing resolution to apply.
Right.
Okay.
To apply.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Moore?
Yeah.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4 is the North Carolina League Municipalities Business Meeting, or did I skip one?
Skip one.
Number 3, sorry about that. 2019 Street Improvement Power Engineering Contract.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is an engineering contract for a small street improvements project. Majority of the Powell bill money this year is spent on sidewalk improvements projects, which should be getting started in the next couple of weeks. We've got a little bit of money for paving and resurfacing, and we'd like to utilize that money before, or at least we won't ever get the work done before the end of the fiscal year, but we'd like to encumber the money with a contractor and have the engineering design done, project bid, and all that. It's going to be a small project, the majority of it is some small sections of street where the road's crumbling or we got groundwater issues. We're getting a lot of complaints. The only street that will probably do the entire street is Dare Court in Manchester subdivision. That road is falling apart and needs to be completely rebuilt with the exception of the curb and gutter. The other streets are Stillwood Drive, Railroad Street, down here by the depot, Jessica Drive, Cedar Ridge Drive, and Preston Trails Drive.
Move approval of this contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4, I've already called it out.
Mayor, members of the council, it is, as you all will recall and remember, the league conference, which is usually held in the fall, was canceled due to all of those affected by the most recent hurricane. As a result, they've rescheduled it, and it is coming up in May. So as always, we ask that council elect a voting and alternate voting member or delegates so that they can carry on business on behalf of the town at the business meeting.
Make a motion that Ms. Robertson be the voting member and
Ms. Robertson, is there others?
You are going to voting member, and Mr. Moy be the alternate.
Mr. Moore?
That'd be fine. Yes, sir.
Second.
So,
A motion and a second. I'll make sure I'm right. Councilman Moore and Ms. Robertson. Councilman.
No.
Councilwoman Robertson be the voting member.
Right. Voting member.
And Councilwoman Moy be the alternate
Okay.
delegate.
All righty. All in favor of those two?
Aye.
Say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item number 5, general records retention and disposition resolution.
I'm looking at Don, asking him to go over everything, but as you'll recall, the Records Retention Act is the schedule of timeframes with which the town has to keep all kinds of documents, and those timeframes vary depending on the actual document. Don has been traveling to clerk schools, et cetera. He's gotten the update on the Records Retention Act, and he's going to quickly go over what amendments there have been.
The main thing to say is that the general list that you see that I've attached in there, it has been provided by Archives and History to local governments across the state for their acceptance and adoption. They're asking that you adhere to this new retention and disposition process. One thing I would add that in January, there are some specific others that will come that are not part of the general retention policy. So in January or February, when I bring something back to you, you're saying, wait a minute, we just did this. Be prepared that there will be some of the ones that are not covered under this policy that will be covered at that point in time.
We've been quite a bit of time since we've updated our Records Retention Act, and now that Don is settled in and life is good and he's sticking around, he will be bringing those sets of amendments more regularly as they occur.
So, do we need a motion?
We do.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the resolution. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Motion
you.
carries. All righty, moving on. Other agenda items. Number one is electric rates.
Well, it's been over a year, and we hadn't come with a resolution yet. And we told the public we'd give after a year, and it's according to the year. And way back, if it's changed or not, I'm not sure, but Robert, years ago, when Mervyn talked about our rates, and at one time we had a couple of votes that would do away with the extra rates for businesses.
You're talking about the demand charge.
Demand charge. And we found out the demands we made all the money. Is that true now?
It's solely dependent on how much the demand is.
What-
Frequently on our system, we don't have a lot of big users that have a high demand. The demand can be a large component of a commercial business, or it can be a very small.
I had one that used $47 for the demand and $42 for the use. Anyway.
And that's nothing out of the ordinary on that. As a good example, I'd give you even our baseball fields, the lighting systems. When they pull in suddenly, you have to have the power and the resources there that have the capability to supply that instantaneous demand. And that costs a good bit in terms of infrastructure. And that's why systems build in those demand charges, because they have to size everything from the
sub. Large user utilities?
They are. They are. But in terms of the demand, it's that instantaneous charge. You're looking at those small 15-minute windows broken out for the entire month, the successive 15-minute windows. And in that 15-minute window, how high was your demand for that particular 15 minutes? And that's what we see that pretty often. You know, Evan has, we discussed that. And what he does now is he brings his lights on 15 minutes apart to keep that charge down.
Okay.
So.
Anybody else have any percentages about reduction of utilities?
While folks are thinking, if I may, we would just offer again, we being staff, offer again the information that we talked about at our workshop. I know that it's a lot to think about. We ask you all to think about it, so thanks to Councilman Moore for bringing it back to the table. Staff is prepared. If council is not prepared to do something tonight, we are prepared to talk to you all about that and ask for your vote, for lack of a better word, at the April 29th budget meeting, which is normally just revenues, but obviously we're talking about an effect on revenue with any adjustment, I'll call it. So we felt like that was an appropriate time to talk about it, because we will be talking about the revenue stream. And we definitely need a decision so that when we get into the meat of the budget and the expenditure side, we'll know what we're working with on revenues.
Then I make a motion that we table it to the 29th.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
We have a motion to table this until the 29th when we have the first budget meeting, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there a second? Did I hear a second? I don't believe I did.
Okay.
Could we look at some figures so that I think it would streamline the budget process if we were to
suggest some figures to you, and that way you could see how they work, rather than just wait until that night and just.
Or any of the percentages that we gave you all in the workshop, we feel like the upper range of that is about all we can afford. And when I say afford, that means not to offset the, not to deduct such a big amount in the revenue stream that we would not be able to do some of the projects that you all have recently approved for Robert to move forward with. So having said that, I don't know if you're talking about some numbers other than that?
No, pretty much, somewhere within the range, I would assume.
Well,
not gigantic number, but I'm thinking that it would give you more time to work with those figures. And if we waited till April and then we're into May, we gotta have our budget adopted.
We would like to have that decision on the 29th if at all possible. Right. And we went over, just as a reminder, Robert helped me, we went over what, 2.5, 3 and 4?
2.5, 3 and 4 during the presentation.
We feel like 4% in the amount of total dollars reduction in the revenue stream is about the maximum of what we can afford without it altering either the transfer to general fund or some of the capital projects we have. Also, what we didn't really talk about and what we would like to talk about on the 29th is how the whole coal ash costs and the offset of not passing that along to our customers, how that has already positively affected the pocketbooks of the citizens. And so I felt like that was a little more detailed information than you may want to get into this evening.
Well, Mayor, since my motion died for lack of a second, can I make another motion?
Yeah.
Well, then I make a motion that we do 4%.
I'll second that.
You do 4% for what?
Reduction.
Okay.
The electric rates.
On the electric rate.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I make a motion that we do 4% reduction on the electric rate.
We do have some money in our electric fund, don't we?
Yes, ma'am, we do. It's a very healthy fund.
Yeah. Money in our electric fund, and I noticed that in the newspaper, Aden is absorbing, right, their increase for their citizens. At least I thought I read that.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Anyway.
Well, I'll just make a comment that we have charged the electric department with a number of projects that we want to see completed. And a lot of this has to do with growth in some areas that we need to get out to. And as staff has brought to our attention, we have an opportunity to keep our rates stable until 2026. That's 8 more years that we can keep our rates the same and still accomplish what this board has charged Robert and his group to go do for us.
I would agree.
I don't have a single rate. I don't have a single bill that comes in my mailbox that's going to be stable between now and 2026. If I could stabilize my DirecTV, I would jump on it.
I might go back.
But we can't. But we can't do that. When was the last time we raised our rates?
I would peek at Anthony, but I believe it was 2008, or maybe the first part of the prior.
So we've gone 10 years without raising our rates. And we have an opportunity to extend that 8 more years. We will have gone 18 years in this town without raising rates. That's unbelievable.
If I could go a little further, and Robert helped me, but I believe the total coal ash costs would equate to about 3.3%.
It'd be about a 3.75% rate.
3.75. Ben says
over the last 2 years.
Yep. And it's coming again.
Well, we are
from what I read.
It is coming again. We are done with our obligation as of June of this year. We have not passed that. We did not pass that cost along to our citizens. We absorbed that. So we have already been able to stave off increases to the citizens for that cost at a level of 3.75% already.
Yep.
In respect, I call for the question.
I'd like to, you don't need to answer, say anything else in? There's a lot more, because we did receive a 35% reduction my first full year on the board. 35%. We put it up for bids. We know this time that 3 towns in Wilson gave an 8% reduction. I'm not going to vote for the 4%. I will only vote for no less than 10%. We owe the citizens this money. We've told them to give the money back. We know we got a good cut. We used $2 million of fund balance last year. Fund balance money that we saved up. We used $2 million. And our citizens deserve, like we did my first year on the board. That was a reduction of 35% just by putting it up for bids. We'd go from 1947 to 1997 under Greenville's arm. Before that time, we sold power to Greenville to 1947.
If I could just add one thing, if you're talking about a one-time reduction, you could probably take that out of your, for lack of a better word, fund balance. If you're talking about a recurring reduction, a 10% reduction would equate to well over $600,000 in our revenue stream every year.
Well, we took out $2 million last year.
But that's a different fund. That's fund balance in the general fund. We're talking about the electric fund, and you just approved two. I just want the information out there just for you all's consideration. You just approved $3 million worth of work. Is it $3 million? Don't let me.
Well, actually, we're looking at 2 different projects, one being $1 million on Old Tar Road widening, and then the second is yet to be determined, but we're projecting $4 to $5 million for the territorial expansion. So we're looking at $5 to $6 million, depending on what level of development the board desires.
What's it going to
Reserve,
cost?
we have how much?
What's it going to cost to run power down Worthington Road to that new subdivision?
That's going to be, I think, Terry, you addressing Ms. Robertson's?
Yes.
Okay, I had two at the same time.
Because she did say it out loud. So.
Okay.
I just got one quick question. If this passes 4%, then tell me or remind me in our workshop, when do we have to raise rates?
Gentlemen,
We would project in 3 to 4 years.
But you could project gas prices. We didn't know they'd go up this time. You know, they went up. They might go back down next year. Nobody guessed the economy. And we asking project, what's going to happen with the war tomorrow.
We do think, based on the experts we've talked to and the market experts, they seem to think that gas prices are going to somewhat level. But then again, it's very hard to predict.
As a reminder, you all charge us to do those projections, so that's part of our responsibility.
And also, there's 3 towns that reduced theirs 8%. What did other municipalities do? What did Concord do?
I'm not really sure on Concord. I can tell you that there are some municipalities that instituted a rider to help them absorb the coal ash cost. And once that cost was absorbed and paid off, then they in turn gave a reduction and included the cost of the coal ash in the reduction. Some people might look at it and say, well, that artificially inflated the reduction because it just returned it to previous levels. But in terms of the actual percentage, and no two systems are the exact same. That's one thing what we try to look at when I polled the other eastern cities. Well, what do you offer in addition to an electric system? And what we saw was compared to what Winterville offers. So we can toot our horn a little bit, but we offer a good bit more. We offer full-time police, full-time fire, a parks and recreation department. That was incredible. Those other eastern cities offer a fraction of what we do. And our tax rates are lower as well.
Shouldn't we know what all the towns in the group we're in now did?
We could certainly get it, but I don't know that off the top of my head. I don't know that.
Before we've had a year, and we would think we didn't have that information in front of us, what the other towns did.
And again, it's very difficult to compare systems, particularly when systems like Concord and Kings Mountain have an industrial base that we don't have.
And Kings Mountain also has its own gas system. What I will say is that's the exact reason we didn't present that information to council, because We've presented information on our system and what our system's done over the last year in hopes that you would consider those numbers on its own accord.
With regard to what the other folks have done, as we talked about in the workshop, we're dealing with two different Dukes. We're a different Duke than what Kings Mountain, Concord, and those folks are dealing with. Just in general, if we're talking percentages, what we were paying under the Duke contract for the capacity charge. You got capacity and energy. The capacity charge, we paid a particular amount. One of the other entities was paying 23% more for that same demand or capacity than we were. So, not the best thing to compare us to them when you're asking what did they do. We were in a different situation than them. So if you hear someone saying 25–30%, it's because their contract was completely different than the contract that we had when we made the decision. With regard to the other towns in the area who were under the same Duke as us, they, again, as we mentioned in that workshop, have had little, if any, system improvements in the past 10 to 15 years. They have not had debt service in as much time. They do not have a parks and recreation program like we do. That's the front porch of our town. They do not have the fire station, 14 guys standing there. Those types of things are the difference that sets us apart from them. And when we're talking about our decision, we need to look at what we've got going on and not get so tied up in what everybody else is doing. But to answer your question, what are they doing? That's what they're doing with regard to what they were paying was 23% higher than what we were paying.
Good. Mr. Anson.
Question call on the motion.
Yes.
No, we've had a question call. You got to vote.
Oh, I mean, everybody else asked a question, Mayor, and you.
No,
I really think that we need to allow everybody a chance to ask all the questions.
I just want to ask a question.
Well, normally, Robert's Rules of Procedure says when the question is called, you vote. It ends discussion. Now, we have a motion to give a 4%, is that right, 4% reduction, and a second.
And that would be effective what date?
I would suggest July 1st in the new budget. I hope that's what.
Right, one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you talking about a one-time adjustment, or are you talking about an annual adjustment?
I was talking about a one-time adjustment.
Okay.
Meaning that they would go back in year 2 to where they were?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second
to
give a 4% reduction in the electric rate. All in favor?
Mayor, Councilman Hines' motion is a one-time
One time
reduction. I'm not sure Councilman Moy is in agreement, and he seconded it. I'm just trying to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Are you in agreement with that motion, Mr. Moy?
No, I wanted a reduction made for, and that's what my question was going towards Anthony, if we can afford it. And I just wanted to see what kind of money we're talking about. That's why I was getting ready to ask before the question was given. And now, yes, I was misunderstood because the 4% will be normal. It will go up until we need to do an increase again, or the 4 years.
It would be roughly $250,000.
I didn't. So what?
Anthony, would you come up? Thank you, just so everybody can hear.
It's a one-time, up to right
It would be roughly $250,000 per year.
per year. And will we? How would that place us into a position?
Well, that's
cost?
that was the upper range of what was presented at the workshop. Staff felt like that was a
reasonable,
probably an aggressive rate based on the other criteria that have been put before us as far as growth and everything of that nature. But it was something that was doable.
Okay, now what's the difference between the one-time, what he's speaking of, compared to, I'm thinking that
Yeah, I mean,
this
you're looking
range,
$250,000 per year.
Per
So,
year.
You know, if it goes for 2 years, and you add $500,000 if you 3 years.
so you're speaking of just a 4% and then go right back to where we at? Yes, no, I want to remove.
I might
sign on that
suggest,
because
Mayor.
I misunderstood.
Yeah, I might suggest, Mayor, since we do appear to have some confusion.
Yes.
And I think he's already done it, but Mr. Hines sort of restate his motion and then give Mr. Moy an opportunity to concur with his second, or if he misunderstood it, then withdraw his second.
I would like to withdraw mine.
Do you understand the motion that
Yes.
he's making?
No, because I like for it to be contingent.
You agree with the motion?
No.
I withdraw my second, sir.
Okay, the motion has been, the second has been withdrawn.
Yes.
Do I hear a second? Anybody else second the motion? That motion dies for the lack of a second. Is that correct, yes, Council?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I would like to make a motion for a 4% decrease into the rates.
Increase to the rate?
With no sunset.
Yeah, that's not a one-time, you're talking a repetitive.
Not a one-time.
And that would be effective July 1st.
Is that right, Councilman Moy, July 1st?
July 1st.
That it will be 4% continuing on forever.
Yes.
Well, until council adjusts it again.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? That motion dies for the lack of a second.
I would like to direct staff to investigate a 5% decrease in rates for our citizens. Now, the word, I know I said investigate, that's exactly what I meant. Look at what the cost is and how it will affect our electric rates. That's what I meant.
So you're making a motion that for 5%, for the county staff to investigate
A 5%.
5% reduction.
And we'll be ready to report that back on the 29th?
I can give you some numbers off the top of my head.
I mean, wouldn't you just do a little division here? We said
Yeah.
250,000 for 4%.
About 315, 320? About $315 to $320,000 a year reduction in revenue. 5%, average citizen is going to see a yearly savings of a little over $100 on their light bill.
$100
over the course of a year.
$7 a month or $7 for the whole year?
Oh, $100 over the course of the year, from July 1st to June 30th.
What I don't know, what I can't tell you this evening is how that impacts the electric budget.
Well-
And thus, the transfer to general fund, et cetera.
Well, the
What's that, about
motion is,
$8 a month, $8 and a half bucks a month.
the motion is that staff investigate a 5% reduction. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Now, discussion. All in favor of that motion?
Discussion, I'd like to discuss, I still think we do a better job for our citizens with the reduction we've received. When we started on this path, it was much more than this for our citizens. Any amount, if you're on a limited budget, is money. You know, any amount, period, is money. It puts back in the pockets of people. And I don't think this is enough, but I'll need to give something. And so I went along with Councilor Robertson, and but I think we should do more. I'm finished.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand.
It's 3-2.
All opposed? Motion carries.
We'll have that information back on the 29th. Thank you, Robert.
Okay? Woo!
Man, it felt like church. Everybody divided.
It's just as bad, isn't it? Okay. All right, item number 2, need for lights at A.G. Cox baseball field.
We have gone from, one team, 2 teams, and we lost our league. 4 teams, lost our league for years. They came back, and hopefully have 4 teams again. They're having to travel. The superintendent, principals agreed. Now I call upon Mr. Williams to do his magic, help us find some funds, the grant money, if possible. Golden Leaf, maybe.
Mr. Williams is not sure you're talking to that Mr. Williams.
This guy?
Yep. The lights.
If I can just interject before he begins.
Go ahead.
One thing that I want to remind everybody about grant money is, and especially depending upon projects, is that when you're dipping into these funds, it's important to prioritize and keep in mind the other projects into which we are looking and the total price tag for those projects. There's a number of them that we're looking at right now. We don't want to hurt ourselves, penalize ourselves, compete with ourselves for said grant money.
And this is on the A.G. Cox lighting?
Yes.
Okay. We've kind of looked at that, and financially, I think we're looking at probably a $200,000 price tag to light that.
I've heard much lower.
We've just done some recent quotes on relighting the A.G. Cox softball field because of the age of those lights. A couple of them have actually fallen during high wind events. So we've gotten recent prices to do.
Would those prices include our folks doing that work, or is that totally contracted out?
I think we're looking at
That's a contracted out turnkey.
Okay, and let me just throw out a couple things, because I've had this conversation with Ron Butler, who is the community schools person now, and he thinks it's a good idea. Now, whether they can come up with any money, potentially a 3-way split between the town, community schools, and Pitt County schools, because it would benefit all 3. And I know he told me that in the lights that he has dealt with, the labor end of it is the most expensive, and if our utility department is willing to pick that part up, then he feels like we could get some lights at a very reasonable price.
Certainly, there's, that in-kind contribution can slice off a little bit of that price tag. There's, when you get into that technical component of the actual light survey and the angling of all those lights, leave that to the professionals. Running some wires, potentially setting certain types of poles, we can handle that on our end. Now, not sure how specific the conversations y'all have had with regard to the lighting of this specific field. We've got some constraints there. They use that field they've got that multi-purpose area that they utilize for the football. In order to get outfield lights, some of those light poles would be in the field of play for the football field. Right. We have constraints on the, which would be the northern side along the street. We have power lines, poles existing right there. Robert wouldn't be real hunky-dory about putting the poles right up against his wires, plus any pole on the field would be in the field of play. Then to the south, you have the maintenance area. You've got the buildings there right up against the field. I think if you bank it off the building, that's a home run. So you'd have some constraints there. So this is a lighting diagram there.
Up to 90.
So let me go over a few things real quick.
Did you have a question?
1976, we took lights down. We did have lights in the field, and it was used for football. 1976. In 77, when we started the league back, we went to the new facility after the lights were taken down. So there were lights there on that field until 76.
Okay. All right.
So just as a viewpoint for your ear, so this is a lighting diagram done by a contractor for us for the A.G. Cox baseball field. One thing I would like to point out, this is Blunt Street. So this right here, where these light poles center up, is the locations of said poles. And I think Ben, might have mentioned it, but you do have a few unique issues when you look at this field, specifically along Blunt Street. One of them, the one right here, is where the dugout is. The one right here, both of those along Blunt Street, if you go look at Blunt Street, there is very little room on Blunt Street to put light poles. Keeping in mind that the room that does exist is overhead power lines. So you would have an issue there. The other part that you got right here is that is part of the Pitt County Schools Facility Services yard. Above and beyond that, it would be outside the field of play, but you do have some significant issues in there. Now, so spoke with the contractor for the lighting earlier, like Ben mentioned. An estimate on a turnkey price was $180,000 to $200,000. Now, I'm more than happy to give you a number that's a little bit different than that, but what I can't tell you still is the complete cost if we look at it a little bit differently than that. So I want to preface it with that. So the lights themselves, the lights and the lights cross arms for that, with the town doing the work that we can and electrical contractors doing other work, keeping in mind there is work that the town cannot do, is $88,575. So you're still looking at $88,575 for said project. And then the
Softball field?
the softball field, which is the more pressing issue, in my opinion, if we're just going to do one, because we cannot operate without the lights on that field. That one is $35,000 solely for the cost of the lights. A turnkey price to have a contractor come in and do everything is about $135,000.
Well, we did $400,000 off the playground equipment last year, so that's not close to that.
And yes, I have spoken with facility services folks. They said they might be able to do something, but there was no indication as to what or how much or even any kind of guarantee.
Superintendent supports it fully. We'd ask him to do that part. We just go to that part. Mr. Butler is in charge of the time.
But nobody's committed any funds.
So if we don't reduce utility rates, we would have the money to
Sure,
probably
yeah.
do some of those projects.
Yeah.
You know I couldn't.
Good point.
You know I couldn't not say that.
There we go.
I do want to point out a couple of things, not to horn in on Evan. I had to step out because my mom had an issue. And when I came in, I heard the conversation. We are limited somewhat on what we can and can't do with our equipment, depending on the size and type of the poles, particularly the concrete or the metal poles, especially if they exceed 55 to 60 feet. Our equipment may not be able to handle those. Obviously, we don't want to install ball field lighting on our distribution poles out there because it interferes, and there are some rules that may prevent us from being able to do that, particularly for the safety of the line crew that are out there. And the actual control system for those is normally performed by a licensed electrical contractor. Now, we can obviously get the power to it, but for when it comes time to start breaking out the individual components, the control systems for it, that would have to be contracted out.
12 of us signed a note to buy the facility, the present park. Then after we lighted it, we donated to town of for nothing, free. Then we did a $1.9 million change in 2010. So what you build, you have to work hard.
Look, I can tell you, I played on both fields all my life.
It's a conversation, that's it.
Yeah, and I think as long as we've got multiple parties that are committed not just to using the field, but paying for the lights when they are being
They did
installed.
help Aiden with their lighting.
Sure. We certainly can continue to run the rabbit and try to figure out the logistics, the pros and cons, and research potential funding sources to go along with the fiscal contributions from all the parties involved. Would reiterate what Evan said, though, when we're looking at funding opportunities, we've got quite a few projects that we're looking at. So selfishly, we would need to keep our priorities a priority.
Well, I would just ask that we keep in mind, I'm not necessarily talking about us absorbing 100% of this.
Certainly.
I'm talking about some sort of agreement with community schools, Pitt County schools, in a, a three-way split.
As always willing to come to the table to discuss and put it all out there and then make a well-informed decision.
That's all. Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank y'all.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I got one question. If we do have lights placed there, who will pay for the utility?
Who will pay for the utilities if we install lights on the baseball?
Yes, and then when you use them.
I think I broke this thing. So for the A.G. Cox softball field, we pay the utilities. If that answers your question.
Okay. Because we use it.
Correct. So the school, the softball, the lights on the softball field, the school, and I'm not going to say that they don't ever use them because I don't want to mislead anybody in saying that, but it is a rarity that they use those lights. We're the ones who use, operate, maintain the lights on the softball field.
On softball. And we will have to do the same thing if we place lights on the baseball field.
Of course, there's no agreement in place, but I would anticipate if it's at our request and we're the ones desiring to have them, or we're the ones who are going to use them most of the time, yes, sir. And honestly, that's probably a little bit of a better way to go. And the only reason I say that is, I'll reference Junior Babe Ruth because that's kind of what we've been talking about it. Or how we've been talking about it, but all of the county organizations that utilize school facilities for Babe Ruth, being North Pitt, Farmville Central, and Aiden Grifton High School, they start their games early in order to avoid use of the lights because, as I understand it, the charges are exorbitant from the school system for using said lighting system.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. Item number 3 is the grass cutting for vacant lots.
Our present policy is to cut vacant lots twice a summer, is that correct? Twice a summer?
No.
Is it monthly?
No, we have a code enforcement program that we cut those when they exceed the, are you talking about our lots or?
No,
lots
the
of-
lots, the public has lots.
Yes,
that are
we
vacant.
have an active code enforcement program. When they exceed 8 inches in height, then we notify them, give them, I believe it's 10 days to cut the lot. If not, then we have our contractor go out and cut it. So it's more than twice a summer.
Is that for vacant lots, like the neighborhood we talked about earlier tonight?
That's right.
So if you own a vacant lot and you don't cut it and it exceeds 8 inches, and as our code enforcement groups go riding around, they will then begin an enforcement. They'll notify you with a letter, certified letter, and then that starts the window of when you receive, for then you can either have it cut, and if not by that particular time stated in the letter, then our abatement contractor comes by and cuts, and we provide you a bill or put a lien on your property.
But it's not just vacant lots. I mean, it could be a lot.
It could be a lot with a house. That's absolutely correct.
That's why, just question clarity there.
That's it.
I had somebody.
Now,
call
not wooded lots, just
Right.
weeded lots.
That's correct.
That's it.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Speed limit signs on Church and Main and Cooper and.
I live on Church Street, and by our own ordinance, it's 35 miles an hour, like a speed trap. Not a speed trap, I wish it was a trap, but and when there's big holes in the road, those are the 3 roads that had no speed limit. Is that correct, Travis?
Actually,
If you
these
come-
are all 25 miles an hour.
If you come off, how does a person know? If you come off Main Street and you make a right on that church, where's the speed limit at, 25?
Church Street from Liberty Street all the way down around Town
But
Hall.
But you go to Main Street, make a right on Main.
Yes, sir.
Is
There's
it-
no sign.
No, that's my point.
Yeah.
No sign. All 3 of those roads had no sign.
And I looked up the ordinance, there's a tremendous amount of roads that don't have signs on them with the speed limits. That's a
And that road,
project.
the reason I'm bringing this one up particularly is because the holes in the road, you know. And I
In the
go out and
middle of
get
the
paper in the morning, and I got to dodge those holes. But it's like, it says, there's roads all, streets all the time that same way.
Yes, sir. There's a, it looks like generally every subdivision street is 25 miles an hour. And it's something that I need to look further into. We probably need to add some of the new streets that we've built, say like Brookfield subdivision. Looks like anything built since 2010 probably has not been updated. It looks like that was the last time y'all did some speed limit ordinances. So just like with DOT, we probably just need to update that with all of the new streets that have been built since 2010, which is...
Well, how about the streets along the Ames Street, the Academy Street and Church Street have a sign, so we're only at, you know.
There is no sign between Cooper and
So
Main
it's
right
35
now.
miles an hour.
They're 25.
If it's not listed, it's 35. It's not posted, it's not posted. You turn right on Main.
Right, the ordinance says it's 25.
Correct, so I think
Yeah.
obviously there's a room for improvement with signage.
Yeah, that's my point.
Travis, did you get any more communication from the school on Worthington?
I haven't heard anything from the school. I did speak with the gentleman from DOT that morning. I
Right.
spoke with you, and I also spoke with him this afternoon. They didn't seem interested in decreasing the speed on Worthington Road. You know, we can always approach them again. I actually mentioned to him this afternoon, it may be good for him to come to a council meeting potentially, or a workshop that we have if we want to discuss that.
Okay.
But their thought was to leave the speed limit as is.
Okay. Because did you say that it's part of us now?
That road is annexed in, but what he said is if there was an ordinance, I don't want to misspeak, but he said if there's an ordinance saying that it's 55, it remains 55 even if we annex it in. Unless the town and the DOT agree to lower the speed limit. And he said at this time there's not enough driveway entrances on that portion of the road to necessitate a
Even
lower
with
speed
that
limit.
school being there, you know what I'm saying, and even if they put in a turn lane there?
I brought all those things to his attention and
So do we need to just invite him here?
I think you need to, I don't think we have formally requested DOT to act on 45 miles an hour, have we?
we haven't I have asked him,
Right,
verbally,
but I
I
don't
haven't
think
sent him.
council has voted on it.
Right, that's correct.
That would be my suggestion for the next step. If council's interested, then you need to take formal action so that we can then
Well, I talked to you
formally.
before I put it in a motion.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying next steps, if
Right.
that's something that you all are inclined to.
Yeah, right now it's just been a verbal conversation, and that was his immediate response.
And I don't know that that will change the answer, but at least
Right.
now we've got it officially as a council action of.
Because, they had made it mention that they were gonna put in a turn lane. They had voted on, they're gonna put in a turn lane out there. So I like to see the school.
The school has to put in a turn lane before they develop the next phase.
Oh, okay. That's the regulation DOT's making them do.
That's part of their development plans.
Right.
the
And I'd like to
approved
see them
plans.
put in the turn lane and then maybe we then petition.
And that turn lane should help a tremendous
Right.
amount.
Then we petition to lower
Okay.
the speed limit.
And I did.
You're talking about on 4 line.
We're talking
No.
about Christ Covenant.
Worthington.
On Worthington.
Christ Church.
Covenant.
Christ Covenant, I'm sorry, Christ Covenant School.
And not to change topics real quick, but I did get an update from him, and we'll just go, since we're talking about speed limits, he's still working on the other ordinances. I believe he'll probably be coming back with an alternative recommendation for Church Street, but all the others would be approved, but he's still working on that.
And Travis, Church Street, we were talking about from Reading Branch to Laurie Ellis.
Laurie Ellis, yes, ma'am. Going back to the speed limit signs, we can certainly install signs. In fact, the ordinance states that the signs will be installed, but I think it would be appropriate to look at all the streets, not just those three.
Well, the reason is you're getting ready to start the new events at the corner. So
The market on the square?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Especially that, with holes in the road. Are you gonna fix the holes this year, next year? There are 3 holes.
You know, I was waiting until we cambered that sewer to see if it was a sewer issue. I feel like it's a sewer issue, but we've cambered that sewer and we don't find any issues, no leaks. So I don't know if
It's odd, it keeps showing.
if it was like a stump or something there that has rotted
You ride
away.
that road also.
Every day.
Oh, I ride down it 5 times a day
Yeah,
at
yeah.
least. But we added coal patch to it probably when I first started working here. That one hole by your mailbox was really bad. We added coal patch to it and it held up for a couple of years, and we really haven't had to do anything with it.
Who fixed the post office? Did you fix that?
I did not.
Somebody finally fixed the post office.
It might have been Amazon.
We need to let him thank you. The
That
post
was-
office came out, that's terrible. Anyway, thank you, Trip.
But I think we can certainly look into getting signs. Now that it's going to be a process because there's going to be a lot of signs. The ordinance states that we will install signs. I'll look into getting those, see how many we need, and I also look in to see what streets we need to update our internal ordinances on.
I know that staff had already started to take a look at, obviously, a sign campaign needing to install signs, so.
But we can go ahead and do Church Street before the market on the square starts,
Yeah.
just to get that area, particularly that area. Thank you.
My electric car's been in the shop 6 months, there's, I'd ride it up and down that, It's been in the Ford dealership since November.
Oh.
Can't find a cable, so I haven't been driving.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it costs you money by the way.
Mm.
Okay. Item number 13, I think we may have covered future agendas and work sessions. I think we've already put some dates down.
We've got lots of dates coming up.
Right.
We spent a lot of time together.
Okay. Reports from department heads. Anyone that would like to start? Okay.
Mayor, for Mr. Robert come up, I'm asking Terry, do we have to go over every department?
These, no, and normally only the departments that have reports stand up. These projects, I don't know if that's what you're
Okay.
referring to,
All right.
but you all asked for this.
Okay.
So if you'd like to forego that tonight, then just let staff know, but
Because we love coming up here.
I think people are getting antsy. There may be some kind of sporting event happening.
Yes,
That's
it
right.
is. Start at 9 o'clock.
I think there's some folks that might want to. 13 minutes ago.
And the score is.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
I apologize.
I don't think you're by yourself.
Has the rain started yet?
I mean,
It's all around us if it hadn't. We've been
only
looking at
if,
the
I
radar.
mean,
I don't
if
wanna-
it's
I
proof,
don't
if,
wanna-
what I'm trying to get at, if it's pertinent information that we need,
Sure.
I think they need to come up. But if it's not, we pretty much touched on this.
But we
you
do
know.
have a closed session.
Well, gentlemen,
And
you
we
all
do have a
heard it,
closed
so
session.
Deem what's prudent.
Right.
How about a
Stand
30-second
aside.
overview?
All right, give me the 30 seconds.
30-second overview on Old Tar Substation. We have had conversations with DOT. We are arguing with them over a couple of small items at this point, but they're ones that we feel impact the flexibility and functionality of that station. We're also well underway in design components, gathering the data. We think we will probably have a set of 85, 90% drawings ready by I'm going to say mid-May. So we feel like we're well on pace on that one. In terms of the electric system territorial, that's going to be a very big component. Engineers are just starting to gather data on that now, and that's where that one stands. That one's in the very initial process. That's all I got. 30 seconds or less.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
You're going to be challenged on this guy.
Evan, time's a wasting.
Okay, quickly. No major updates on the items on the agenda. We do believe that we will have the townwide Greenway Master Plan for this group for adoption or for recommendation for adoption presented by the consultant, Kimberly Horn, at the next town council meeting. Real quick, kind of like the police chief, we've got, our upcoming fiscal year, the message has been stay the course. We are in need of a new ball field drag. Ours is about 11 years old, has over 1,300 hours on it. I have gotten a quote. It is on state contract, $17,427.65. We do have those funds in the salaries and wages line item as unspent funds that we could transfer to capital to purchase this item. Those funds are there as unspent funds as a result of vacancies in the new rec programmer position that was funded beginning July, hired in October, and the vacancy in the recreation parks maintenance worker. which that individual left in October, and the new individual began in February.
I got so excited, I apologized to Evan about the fact the game started 13 minutes ago. I forgot that I asked him to come up.
Yeah, she
here.
did. She told me I had to be up
I
here.
didn't support his request, but I wanted him to present this to council tonight.
So sorry, she made me do it.
I did.
Motion to approve.
I did.
Second.
Thank you.
We have a motion for approval.
Second.
Is there a second?
Yes, Councilman Moore,
Okay.
For a new tractor?
Discussion.
for a new drag,
New ball field groomer.
ball field
That's correct.
groomer, sorry, the more professional term for it.
Ball field drag, whatever you want to call
There you
it.
go.
That's what we call it. I'm just trying to fancy it up.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Go Texas Tech or Virginia, whoever your team
Oh,
is.
thank you,
Okay.
Evan.
Do I hear a motion we adjourn the closed session? Open session.
Yes, into closed, right.
Right, in the
Who made
closed
the
session.
motion?
All in favor,
I make
say
a
aye.
motion that we move into closed session.
Mr. Moore, second.
Oh.
Have a motion to go into
Got a bunch of
closed.
seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We'll be quick.
Yep.